Shapeshifters, an entity with the physical ability to transform into another form, whether it be an animal, a friend or relative, or something you can't even describe. Are these witches with powers of black magic, or demons from another realm? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 5 of these shapeshifter encounter stories. You've changed.
Shapeshifter in my house. Oh man, I actually saw this thing a few times, all at a rather quiet night. The first one was when I was around 10 or 11. It took the shape of my babysitter at that time, and she was washing her hair in the indoor pond beside my bedroom. I walked over to her and asked her why she was washing her hair there, when I heard my babysitter ask me who I was talking to from the other side of the house. The hair washing babysitter disappeared when I turned my head back. The second one was a few years later. The house was pretty dark, except for study room where I was and computer room where my brother was. I can see one of my brothers clearly walking towards the dining room fridge area from where I sat. Being the jerk older sister that I am, I walked up to tease him. He was supposed to lose some weight for school. It's a Singaporean school system thing. This entire walking was 5 seconds tops, but by the time I reached there was no one in the dining room. There was no way he could sneakily get around me, as there's only one entrance and one exit that I saw that entire 5-second journey. The newest one was a few weeks ago. I was visiting my parents and had spent the entire evening inside the study room reading and mainly accompanying my mom. As I walked to the restroom besides the family room, I saw my babysitter sitting on the couch. Now, this is weird because she was not working here anymore, and I didn't hear any guests coming, so I proceeded to walk towards her and greet her at the same time. She disappeared right in front of my eyes. My grandmother told me and my sister a story once. She was walking in her neighborhood. She got to an intersection, and on the other side of where she was, she saw a man in a long coat and hat. When he crossed the street, he passed behind some cars to where she couldn't see him anymore. Then he just disappeared, and a black cat walked out from behind the cars. And she didn't see the guy anywhere, and she was watching him the whole time. Anyone ever experienced this before? There's a cat in her face. When I was rather young, I saw some strange occurrences that even in my adult years, I find it hard to fully understand. This would be one of them. I was 6 years old when my mother, father, brother, and I went to a tent revival that I will never forget. We had arrived an hour early so my dad could help the pastor, who was a close family friend, finish up setting up tents and the sound equipment. My mother was helping his wife set up the metal chairs, and my brother and I were playing out of the way when my mom came to us and said there was going to be a lot of people and we shouldn't forget to remember our manners and be quiet. As people began to roll in, I refused to leave my mother's side. Crowds made me very nervous, and anyone who has been to the new family at church or revival knows that there's multiple hugs and handshakes, and I'm most certainly not a touchy-feely person. The service was about to begin when a woman of small stature and black hair came under the tent and took a seat right next to me and my mother. When I looked up at her, I noticed her eyes were very dark, and something about her scared me to the point that I didn't want to move. I kept my eyes glued forward and tried to tell myself to push off the bad feeling. After what felt like forever, the service was over and we were finally about to leave. As we were heading out of the tent, a hand grabbed mine. I turned around and saw the woman who was sitting next to me staring straight at me. I just wanted to say, you are such a well-behaved child, and so pretty. I stood there, motionless and speechless, tears welling in my eyes as I carefully tried to steal my hand from her grasp. It was like the woman and I were the only people there. Her hands were absolutely freezing, and I could see what looked like a cat in her face, leering at me through her eyes, making them look a yellow-red color, and a shadow movement surrounding her face. Beyond terrified, I screamed as loud as my little lungs would allow me to. Of course, my mother ran to my rescue and grabbed me up, rushing me to the car, demanding to know what was wrong with me. I told my mother about what I just saw, and she didn't believe me, saying that it was impossible and made me go back and apologize to the woman. As an adult, I now believe that it was a demon taking the form of a cat in this woman's face. Why it decided to show itself to me, I will never know, but it was definitely frightening at the time. My mom. Once I was waiting for my mom to come back home. She had gone to my uncle's with her best friend. I had decided to stay home and watch a movie that was coming on in a few hours. Anyways, she left, and 2 hours later, I started watching the movie. About 20 minutes or so into the movie, I heard a loud knock at the front door. I answered the door, and my mom is outside the porch door. She motions for me to come outside and points to the car. I noticed that her best friend isn't with her. I thought maybe that they had stopped at the store and she wanted me to help with her bags. I was going right outside, but for whatever reason, I needed to change my shoes. When I came back, she was gone. At this point, I reasoned she was just pissed off I took so long and left. She had a very short temper. I go back to watching TV when the phone rings. It's my mother. She's calling from my uncle's house. I can hear my cousins in the back, and tells me that the car won't start, and to please take such and such out of the freezer for dinner. But I often wondered, what would have happened if I stepped right outside? It's a really weird thought. Our six-legged house dweller. In 2008, I discovered that a friend of mine has a sixth sense. She sees ghosts on a regular basis, usually unhappy ones and the occasional demon. I was curious to see what would happen if the two of us scanned my house for ghosts, so we turned off all the lights and searched. We didn't find anything on the upper floor except for a silhouette of a tall man wearing a hat. He lingered in my sister's room, which had been vacant for the past month since she had gone to college. I knew right away this ghost was the one who made the floorboards in the hallway creak. I knew it wasn't just the house settling because the house came with a presence. There was nothing on the main floor, which consists of a kitchen, dining room, and living room. But as soon as you enter the basement, I heard her gasp. I asked her what she saw, and my friend described a being with 6 legs or arms with human hands, but you can't tell which part of his body was front or back. Needless to say, we were deeply disturbed, and I was terrified of the possibility of it being an evil demon. My friend and I confronted these spirits, asking them to go back to the place they originally came from. The man left, waving goodbye, but the 6-legged being didn't. I asked it if it was good or bad, and my friend said it was neither good nor bad. It was just itself. An answer like a cat or a dog might communicate if they could talk. I felt much safer knowing this. My friend sensed this being did not have a human intelligence, but more like an innocent animal. I asked it if it lived here, and it confirmed Yes. I have named this being Jinx because of its 6 appendages. Jinx is friendly, but it still makes me uneasy. I'm just not used to this sort of thing. Sometimes I have visions of Jinx. In January of 2009, I had a vision while napping of Jinx in the bathroom. I think this was significant because it had never been anywhere else in the house but the basement. Our floorboards have stopped creaking since that man left. I think he mistook my sister's bedroom for a spare room for visitors. I'm glad my sister is back, and I'm glad to not be scared of certain things anymore. Shape-shifting ghost or succubus. First of all, I would like to emphasize that I publish this story as a means of getting help, not as a means of getting attention. My name is Shane. I am a senior in college, majoring political science. I live alone in my condominium unit, and nothing has ever bothered me until now. It all started with my online obsession. One night, I was browsing through vampirefreaks.com when I saw a profile of this lovely girl from my country. She had pale skin, long black hair, a perfect body, and an angelic face. Though she never went online, I constantly stalked her profile and even dreamed of looking for her so we could meet. Well, this is the part where it gets embarrassing. You see, she really turned me on, even if I could only see pictures of her, and sometimes I would satisfy myself while thinking of her. I went on like that for a week or so, but then one night as I was preparing to go to bed, I felt someone sit on the bed next to me. I was surprised because there was no one in the room and no one in the bed. Where I sat folding my clothes, nothing happened after that, so I didn't think much about it. But when I laid down and closed my eyes, I felt my chest constrict as if something was leaning upon it. I also felt very lethargic, and I could feel tingles on my skin as if someone had lightly tickled me. I was getting a bit creeped out, so I opened my eyes and received the shock of my life when I saw a young girl. The young girl on the internet I was so obsessed with, straddling me. That instantly aroused me, and we had sex. A few rounds later, I began to gain back my thoughts and started panicking. Of course I knew that it wasn't the girl from the internet. I thought I was dealing with a ghost or shapeshifter, and I tried to roll out from under her. The girl got mad and slammed me into the bed with so much force that my head hit the headboard. I began screaming bloody murder, and the girl disappeared when my neighbor began rapping on my door. Now, I'm apprehensive. What if this being comes back? She might kill me next time. If you have some suggestions, please help.